Once you hit record. Perfect. We got the sound. Good morning, you guys. I am Halley Hardy, CEO, team leader here at a Keller Williams Coastal OP in the luxury. Whoop whoop. And this is Producers Club. I have a good friend and awesome producer and colleague now that I've gotten to know that is joining us today, Mr. Stelios. Thank you.
It's
Welcome
very
to the
kind
call,
of you.
Stel.
Thank you. It's
Thank you
good to
so
be on this morning.
Good. Thanks for waking up early and hopping on. So Stelios, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit if people aren't familiar with who you are? Tell us more about yourself.
Sure. Stelios Zoumberakis. I guess clearly Greek, first generation, born Greek American. Live in La Salle, Rossmore area. Office in Long Beach. I've been doing commercial for close to a decade. Jumped straight into commercial from a 20-year IT degree. And as I imagine Hallie's going to ask me today, definitely leverage technology in a lot of what I do.
Yeah, you're definitely a technology leader. Stelios is the ALC member that also is very involved with technology here in the office, and I love we're going to pick your brain a little bit more about AI and how you're implementing that, which is great. You specialize in commercial real estate. Tell us more a little bit about that. Like, what type of client do you service or product do you serve? Um,
Like most in the commercial space, I started off cold calling apartment owners. That was the first probably year of my career. And then after kind of picking up one client after a sale or an exchange, I he called me and said he had a retail center that he needed a space leased up for. I said, okay, well let's learn commercial leasing. And then he, 6 months later, he turned around and sold the center. So, okay, well, now we're into retail sales. I guess the long story short is throughout the first 5 to 6 years of my career, I just started picking up clients here and there that just kept wanting to work with me. So, I went from just apartment sales and invest into general investment sales and tenant rep and landlord rep and industrial retail land development. I work with public storage and helping them identify some, you know, future potential locations. And by that, I mean, I see the I see the deal or piece of land. I see if it checks off all, a few of their boxes, and I send it off. So it's been an exciting and interesting career so far. Just constantly learning and being able to help more and more clients. So there's a saying that I use at the office. The jack of all trades is a master of none. And most people
yeah.
just that's the first half of the saying. The second half is but still always better than a master of one. So I try to focus on that in my work.
It's a really good philosophy. And you said magic or dreaded word based on what your perspective is, I guess is two words, and that's cold calling. And I think that it's a lead generation source that most commercial agents use, whether in the beginning of their career or in the middle of their career. A lot of residential agents may be like hesitant to implement that. Tell me more about your mindset when you're cold calling. Like, tell me more about that activity. What do you do to win to get yourself in that space?
God, practice. The objection handling is everyone's fear. In the beginning it was getting hung up on or whatever, being yelled at, then hung up on. But really that's an easy call because it's, kind of done. And there's been once you get through a couple of those where they actually reach out to you at some point and say, "Hey, you've left me messages," or we've chatted in the past, and all my notes say, be ready for a rough call, not nice, whatever it is in the CRM. But they start calling you back; those get better. But it's practice in objection handling. A lot of people just get stuck and don't know. The purpose behind the call. And for us, it's always just the meeting. It's
Hmm.
there's no, I'm not trying to sell the deal and close the deal on the phone usually. It's let me just get FaceTime with you in some at some future time, whether it's generally for the list side, but even for buyers and things like that. It's what's the goal of the call and focus on that. You're not gonna, blow the deal on trying to set a meeting.
That conversation is so important. Many people will pick up the phone and think that they're maybe selling a house or trying to get a listing, and really it's just that next step of contact, gaining some type of agreement, and then saying, "Hey, I'm going to meet you at the property," or "Hey, let's go grab coffee," or "Hey, I'll send you a CMA."
Oh,
Something that's
totally.
just going to continue the conversation, right? As you mentioned, it may take, a while to nurture a lead or a contact. You mentioned your CRM. Like, talk more about that. Like, what are you tracking? What do you put in there? How important is your CRM to you in your business?
You know, really, I use the CRM because well, outside the regular sort of bonuses of tracking your clients and whatnot, the cold calling aspect of the CRM I use only the number only pops up once every 30 days once there's an interaction. So I try not to just pester the client that a lot of other agents have done, and that's really what annoys people. And I also track, what I called them on, whether it was a recent sale or a comp or an offer or whatever it was that lead generator that I used in the call, so that I'm not repeating myself and doing those sorts of things. So
Hmm.
for me,
Um,
everything is about tracking and efficiency.
yeah, it makes sense. You're very systems oriented. We're gonna get into that in just a
So,
minute, but why don't you give us like an overall kind of snapshot and landscape of what the commercial industry is doing right now in our area? Like, where are you seeing wins? Where are you seeing some challenges for the perspective of those on the call?
Sure. The most challenging part of commercial now, as far as a product type, is multifamily. The legislative environment over the last few years has taken a turn for the worse and made it a lot more difficult for owners to turn a profit or make the numbers work on multifamily. And that whole side of the business has ended careers of folks that only did multifamily. Um,
Mm.
I've seen more wins in the business space, which would be either people looking to expand businesses, whether it's going to a second location or opening a new brand new business, or needing industrial space for storage now because they've outgrown their current storage needs. Um, so that's the winds have changed. The wind of winds, say that three times fast, has changed into, kind of almost more boots on the ground type stuff, like self-storage, which is, yeah, it's investment, but it's still a business. There's retail sales that's involved with it. It's a little bit of a different structure. And it's also there's bigger wins in business than there are in just real estate.
Mm-hmm. As a residential agent, what should I look out for or pay attention to be in tune with what someone might bring up in a conversation? Like, how would I talk about that, or what would I look at if someone said, "Hey, how's commercial?" or "I'm thinking about investing." What would I look for or look at?
Um, uh, yeah, I almost wanted to say that it's the same questions as residential as far as motivation. Oh, how long have you been thinking about this? Or what have you looked at? Very important. Is anyone else helping you? Those sorts of that level of questioning. You're not going to come in because a new investor may not know what a cap rate is, or they might have had a brief explanation on ChatGPT, and they're going to go searching LA County for a multifamily at a 7 or 8 cap, and that just doesn't exist here, unless you're in a really bad building or a really unsavory area. You're not going to find it. Belmont Shore does not sell a 7 or 8 cap at all. So it's just having those secondary, that conversation of motivation and research and what do you know? Who's helping you? Sorry, my dog is protecting me from the squirrel outside.
You're fine. We love dogs around here. I don't know if you know that. But yeah, Stelios, we talk to a lot of people, consult with a lot of people that may be hesitant to move out of their primary residence and yet have a lot of equity in their home or maybe own more than one unit. And they're considering other avenues of growing their wealth and their business. And I think a lot of residential agents are maybe like hesitant to provide that or offer that as a solution. What would make sense in that scenario where we're consulting a high net worth individual that's like, hey, I don't want to sell my home, but I'm interested in making some more money? What would that conversation look like to either pair them with someone like you, or, when would we bring and partner with a commercial agent in that conversation? Like, when would
You
that
know,
make sense?
it's really going to depend on the level of experience of the residential agent. If you're a 20-year agent and had a fair level of exposure and you can help them yourself, it could be a phone call to one of the commercial guys with a quick question or a clarification question or something along those lines. If it's something kind of new to you, if you're wet behind the ears, greenhorn. It's, just pick up the phone like anything else, come down to the office, swing by after the team meeting and just have a conversation. Everything starts there. It's that what do you know? What is your client trying to accomplish? And, where are they in their life? And how much responsibility do they want? Do they want the responsibility of a day-to-day operation? Do they want something that they just set it, forget it, the checks come in every month, and that's the end of it. Do they want to? So we start with a conversation. That's just what it is. Just give me a call. Happy to help.
We've talked about DSTs being another option, that people
Oh,
are
totally.
talking about a little bit more. If, those on the call may not know what a DST is, give us a little mini rundown of what it is and kind of where the opportunity is for people there.
Sure. DSTs have been around since I think they were created in the 80s, sometime in the 80s, maybe 90s, which was 30 years ago. But anyway, the it's short for Delaware Statutory Trust. It's basically a conglomerate of owners for one giant piece of property, whether it's a multi-thousand unit apartment building or student housing in Mississippi to a Travel America Center or a Love's or something along those lines. Um, they are completely hands off. They're fully triple net. There's no expenses. The company we work with doesn't have secondary fees and things like that they kind of the getchas that other folks have, and they just it's like a 3 or 4 day close, and the 10th or the 15th of the next month, the checks start coming in. They fully manage the asset. They control when it's sold also, so you don't really have an out so much. There's possibilities, but it's not easy. But they're hands off, and most of the returns. I just got an email yesterday. It was a Travel America Center coming up in Washington. It's an 8.5% return. They're not guaranteed. It's real estate. There's no guarantees, but it's certainly a better return for most owners, most long-term owners that are floating around 2% return on equity on their apartment building or their home, for that matter. Even if they were to rent it out, you're not unless you can make north of 8.5% on a full return, then it doesn't may not pencil out. And even if you're just under, there's no responsibility. It's just coming in. There's no 2 a.m. call that the water heater blew out. There's no, AC maintenance. There's none of that. So it's become very popular for the kind of retiring boomer generation.
Mm, hmm. There's obviously a financial barrier of entry. It's not like Robin Hood, trade in the DST stuff. So we talked about, like, again, the ideal client being a client that just needs a place to park their money. And you also mentioned that it might be a good solution for those that are stuck in that 1031 exchange limbo time period. Tell me more about that.
You can use it to rescue the exchange. So there's 3 different exchange rules. One of which is, I mean, there's a 3 property rule that everyone sort of defaults to, but there's a 200% identification rule as well. And what you can do with a client that may be picky or may be scared of paying the taxes, is you can identify the entirety of the exchange amount in the DST up front. and that eats up a portion of your 200%. But then you can go out and identify other properties as well to close on. And the DST sort of use the DST to sort of rescue 1031 exchange if it needs it. Or maybe you've got 5 million in exchange funds and you found something for 4.5. You don't want to pay taxes on 500,000. As long as you've identified that amount in the DST in the exchange, you can just dump the rest into the DST and you've got a fully executed exchange.
These numbers, we might not encounter every day in our, residential sector. And we know there's a huge
Fair.
generation, the silver tsunami, to repeat a word that we keep hearing, that there's going to be a lot of exchange of, younger generation, middle class Americans even that are getting these giant properties or talking about these big numbers, and they want to know about these opportunities, right? And then, make sure that they know that that's an option. Let's shift the gears a little bit because I definitely don't want to miss this portion. AI, you mentioned it earlier. So, like I said, you are Mr. Tech in my mind. Tell me more about AI. How are you viewing it and how are you implementing it in your business?
Like most, I probably used it to start writing descriptions for my properties, with a little bit of information. And it's sort of ballooned from there when I was exposed to it's called Make. It's kind of an AI aggregate service. They can tap into various different AIs, whether it's, chat or Claude, or any number of other things. They can tie into your CRM, they can tie into your email, all these different things. So what it gave me an opportunity to do was set up an employee that would go through my email, and I probably get 500 to 600 email a day from different, brokerages or third-party services or MLS or wherever it is, and go through and look through my email, compare it against a buyer's list that I have of, 300 buyers. Um, and it'll look at the property, it'll take it to the buyer's list and compare it. And if there's a match, it'll send me an email to tell me like, hey, there's a possible match here. And that took what took hours before, and actually dreaded hours before, to go through all those emails and then try to remember all the buyers that might fit this profile.
Mm.
Was an impossible task. And now it's fantastic. I get anywhere between 30 to 60 emails a day of matched opportunities. And then each email is one opportunity against everyone else. So if I have one opportunity and 15 buyers, that's how many possible leads it's sort of generated for me to reach out. And it's my next phase is to have it just to have it write the email. Um,
Mm.
and have it set up for draft. And so when I can come in the morning, I can just review it and then send them off. It needs constant training, constant feedback, a lot of, it's not really coding work, because working with AI to tell me the code to put in into Make to get it to work and, back and forth. Um, but it's an understand you need an understanding of filtering, and you sort of it's challenging because you need to filter down, but at the same time you can get too specific because then you potentially knock out potential returns on buyers and hits and things like that. So I've been doing it for 2 or 3 months now. I've sent out scores of emails, picked up a deal or two, lots of interest, lots of people looking. But in my case, where oftentimes buyers are in and out of the market, often years off, years on, it's a means of further conversation. I may not have talked to someone for 6 months or a year because they're not sort of in my general cold calling list. Um, and it'll be, hey, saw this deal, thought of you. Are you still in the market? And it's, oh, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Things have changed. I've moved this. I want to do that now. Hey, like, sounds great. Let's grab a beer, and catch up. So a lot of that. You're going to hear that every commercial agent you talk to, that's the close. wow, sounds like you're busy. Let's grab a beer and have a conversation. So, or
Hmm.
coffee or whatever it is. It's just close for the meeting. Close for the meeting. Always close for the
Yeah,
meeting.
next step, show up. Stelios, I'm a huge proponent of what calling like ethically responsible AI. And that's the exact method of using AI in your business to help make more money without losing the human connection. And I think that that's what a lot of people have, maybe missed the mark on. Because you are keeping and maintaining a solid list of people who you're actively working with. That's check number one. That's so important, just to break down that story a little bit. Check number two is the fact that you're then taking something that you know will build a meaningful connection in a phone call and a meetup with them and having AI do that back end filtering so that gives you more time to put the things that you need in where your skill set is, right? The conversation or calling people or doing the dials versus having AI leverage that on the back end.
Sure, and even the reverse is then possible because then
Mhm.
it could potentially have AI track who hasn't come up
Mm,
in the hits, and call that person and say, I got this AI thing, and you've never come up, and this is the buying criteria I have for you. Is that accurate? And does it need to change? Do I need to update it? Have your needs changed? Did you adjust to the market? Are you waiting for the market to come back around? Whatever it is, it's that the opposite could also be true. I haven't figured out how to do that part yet, but I imagine it's possible. And for the record, I think I pay under 200 a year for Make for this connection. It runs on credits. And it's, ties into one email, connects into my cloud account to pull the buyer's needs list and puts it all together, and all the way out the door. So
that's awesome. What other tools are you using? Anything else that's AI we should know about? Things that are cool,
I haven't
programming tools.
I didn't jump into Claude yet. Although I've seen the work, and to be honest with you, I was already paying for chat. I said, well, having been in the tech space for so long, I figured chat's either going to introduce this option, or it's going to die. And my bet is OpenAI is not going to die, so they're going to introduce this, and they did a month later after kind of Claude caught fire. But it was interesting to watch on social media, like everyone that was like chat, 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 Claude, 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 and now that's kind of this back and forth. But somebody comes up with something first, the competitor is going to match it, or slightly beat it. Maybe it'll be slightly inferior, but I've seen it for so long. So um, yeah, I think that's it. The biggest beat on Claude that I knew of was over ChatGPT was being able to log into services. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually have Claude log into MLS, run the search, do
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things. Even being a commercial agent, I look into MLS for opportunities because other commercial agents aren't. They're sticking to the big three third parties that we all use,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of opportunity for me in MLS. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a non-commercial agent that's listed a multifamily property and has mispriced it, and it's an opportunity for my buyers. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a residential agent and you have a multifamily opportunity, if you don't know underwriting like the back of your hand, you should take a shot at it and then just confirm it with your local commercial agent to make sure it's, within reason.
That's good advice. We only have a couple minutes left. What else do you want to share? Any other thoughts or advice or?
Oh, you know, uh, for anyone looking to enter the commercial space, we're happy to have you. It's definitely thinned out the last few years with interest rates and
Mhm.
economy and legislation and all these different things. I would encourage you to at least first just get a lay of the land that you want to work. Look at velocity, get to know who the big buyers are, get to know who the sellers, the flippers are,
Mhm.
and start there. And it's just keep an eye on it, and maybe you'll find an opportunity that was presented to, a buyer before someone else, and they tend to be pretty good about this guy showed me the deal. I'm going to work with them. But BRBCs are what they are, and they're there for a reason. And I'm sure if Simon's on the call, he's going to make sure it's the best thing to do is have that signed, and I don't disagree with him. Um, but oftentimes, you gotta take a little bit of a risk to reap the reward.
It's so true. And have all of that dedication and keep staying in touch with your clients because it really is a long game, I know there. Dougie or Stelios, when do you guys drop Stelios's contact there in the chat? If any of you guys have any other questions, again, I know he's happy to connect. He also gives a great commercial minute here in the office and Coastal. You guys are always welcome to join for those team meetings as well. He always brings a lot of value, updates on products going on in the market or trends that he's seeing in the governance or the rules or the laws that are affecting commercial and residential both. Celios, thank you so much for spending your Friday. If you guys are here at Coastal or in Long Beach, we'd love to see you for our beach day today. It's happening at 11 o'clock in downtown Long Beach. It's from 11 to 2. So we'd love to have you, even if you're not in our office. If you guys just want to come over and say hi, we'd love to have it. Thanks, Dougie.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a
You're
great weekend.
welcome. Thanks, Stelios,
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye
Thanks,
everyone. Happy
Stelios.
Thank you so
Friday.
much. It was great.